Hello, everyone. Welcome to this sharing on the topic of somatic therapy and relational healing. I'm Elena Jacinta, a somatic experiencing practitioner and the founder of Back to Your Body, a virtual somatic therapy practice. And I'm here with my colleague Arpitha Shankar, who will introduce herself briefly.
Hello everyone, this is Arpitha. I'm a body-oriented trauma therapist. I work with individuals and couples, and I'm really looking forward to this dialoguing with my dear colleague Elena.
Thank you. So, Arpita and I met at a somatic experiencing training in India, the advanced part of the 3 year long professional SE training. And soon after, she joined Back to Your Body as a practitioner, which I'm so excited about. And we both specialize in developmental trauma and we work with attachment, but we do that through a different combination of body based modalities. So, in this conversation, we'll be sharing how we each came to somatic trauma healing and attachment informed work, and how our individual approaches shape the therapeutic space we hold. And my hope is that this dialogue can offer something meaningful for those of you seeking support or a sense of direction as you're healing your relationships, whether it's a relationship with yourself, your body, your emotional reactions, your behavior, your past, your physical symptoms, or maybe it's a relationship with the people around you, your partner, or the world at large. So let's just dive into it. Arpita, what made you interested in studying somatic therapy and specializing in attachment work?
So, my career path had been a byproduct of my own pathway to integrity and presence. I started my work as a birth worker, being a doula and a childbirth educator. And as having had the privilege of being in the birthing field and having witnessed families give birth to babies, what I was increasingly noticing was the body has its own language and the body has its own wisdom that unfolds, and the transformative power of birth and how people come. I've seen mothers who have a quality of existence that depends primarily on putting others' comfort beyond theirs, come over to the other side completely transformed when they've had a very empowering birth experience. It's like they've suddenly found their voice, they've come into their own, they're so sure of themselves, they're so rooted in their inner knowing. And and from that space, the way they approach life is so different. So I've seen this contrasting experience of movement, and I've been fascinated by what enables it. And I've also seen the other side of how when both the experiences become traumatic, how that affects life post birth, both for the parent and the baby. And I was also at a point where I was exploring my own relationship with myself as I was a parent to two wonderful children, and I had all the information I needed to raise them into emotionally sensitive, wholesome adults, and yet I was unable to really step into the knowing, step into the knowledge I had, and I was very curious on what is coming in the way of my integrity and my presence was the echoes and vibrations of unresolved woundings in me. So, and that's when I felt this calling to dive deeper into this, into what the wisdom of the body holds, because I think the wisdom is in the echoes that reverberates in life experiences from the past. And I became more interested in attachment trauma because a large part of how we adults, how we function as adults, is shaped by the way we were received into this world right from the time we were conceived in the womb. So it was quite humbling, and also I was filled with awe and wonder about how we get imprinted with core beliefs right from the time we are conceived, based on how our caregiver relates with us while we are in the womb. So a lot of times, and these pre-verbal memories are only stored in our bodies. So it was a respite for me that sometimes you don't have to talk your way through trauma, and many a times we can hold the body into unfolding an unfolding of incomplete life experiences, and through that completion, we can have choice and possibilities of relating in a more life affirming way. So that's how I stepped into the work that I do at the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yes, it's such a unique journey. Well, all of us go through a very unique path to come to this work. Yeah. So for me, I got into somatic work through my dance training. I used to be a professional dancer, and when I was in London, the first dance form that I used to study used to be South Indian classical dance, and my Bharatanatyam teacher introduced me to somatics. I didn't know what it was. I don't think any one of us really understood what it was, but it felt good. It felt good in the body and it felt right. And then later on, as I went to study contemporary dance and contact improvisation, somatic movement and body work was very much part of our training. But when it comes to somatic therapy, it started with my own healing. And I didn't know at that time that I was healing trauma, that I was healing developmental trauma. I didn't know this is what was resurfacing for me, and I learned this word much later. I knew I was going through a difficult time in my life, and relationships were a big part of it. I was also transitioning out of my dance career. I moved countries a couple of times, and eventually I ended up with emotional and physical symptoms of a burnout. There is sometimes a perception that if you work as a professional dancer with a body, then you have pretty good awareness of yourself and your body. And I realized that that's not exactly the case. It was not in my case, at least. And emotionally, that time I was on edge. I developed extreme sensitivity, constant fatigue, insomnia. My migraines got worse at that time. So there was a whole bunch of symptoms that didn't make sense to me. And it was my wake-up call. I wanted to understand what was happening to me and how I can support myself. And then fast forward 2 years later, when I started working with my clients through yoga and later through somatic experiencing, I realized that no matter what my clients came to me with, no matter what the issue was, there was usually some relational component to it and some patterns from childhood or some form of attachment wounding, whether they were coming to me after an accident or after surgery or wanted help with setting boundaries. There was usually something that was much deeper, and I could not ignore that. And so I went and did additional courses in other modalities: neuroaffective touch, integral somatic psychology, internal family systems. So these are just some of the approaches that I found really useful in starting to untangle the attachment pieces of trauma, both for me and for my clients. So what I would like to talk about next is that somatic therapy is becoming more and more popular these days, and it's hard not to notice that more and more people start to talk about their trauma. They realize that they might have had trauma or that their body may be keeping the score. But what some people may not know is that there are many different forms of somatic therapy, and even within the same modality, there are different approaches to somatic work, or working with a body mind connection, or working with trauma. And some people may benefit from some approaches more than others. And so, my question to you, Arpite, is what does somatic therapy with you look like? What is unique about your approach? Who is it for? Who can benefit from it? So if you can talk about that.
Sure. Um, the primary modalities that I use in body-oriented approach to trauma is somatic experiencing, body dynamics, and at the moment I'm also training in neuroaffective relational model. So it's a combination of these three practices primarily. And how it looks different is what I primarily work first is establishing a relational therapeutic relationship, because that is one of the key resources in supporting the work that we get to do together. Um, like many times there is growing awareness about somatic work, and it's often misunderstood that if we only allow ourselves to feel, we will be healed. So, although it might feel like it's so deceptively simple, um, it's often not the case, because in order to feel oneself, one needs to also develop the capacity, and sometimes feeling something could be really scary. And that's when you have that relational presence, and over time we build relational safety, then there is more and more deepening into the things that had been really hard to feel in the body. So it's really about building capacity in the body to hold different life experiences, so that yeah, one feels well resourced, because one of the reasons why trauma happens is because at that moment we were very under resourced. Um, another key piece that I look at is how does one organize life events internally in their body? When life experiences happen, what does that evoke in them somatically? And what kind of core beliefs is held at the end of these somatic experiences? So, so it's about once we uncover these things and allow the body to embody these experiences. What I've noticed is then from that place there is agency, there is expansion of consciousness, or an elevation of consciousness from wounding to more presence and agency. And from that place, there is more life affirming possibilities that opens up. Um, so it's really about somatic awareness builds a bridge to connect and establish a relationship with oneself. And the more we relax into that relational connection with oneself, then there is more integrity and authenticity in relating with the world. And we don't get washed away with the currents of automatisms that have been in place, and they have wisdom, because those tendencies really saved us from whatever trauma we survived in the past. But the key thing is to let our body know that that is over, and giving ourselves permission to thrive. Uh, so this is what I work primarily in, supporting individuals to really step into the present, into a space of from survival to thriving. I work with individuals of all genders. Um, I also I enjoy working a lot with parents. Being a parent myself, I relate with the um, with the kind of challenges parenting evokes in us, and can become portals of healing. Um, and I also work with couples, uh, and with couples, it's really moving work on understanding how our nervous system has stored the pathways of expressing love, receiving love, interpreting rejections, uh, associations with conflicts. So these are the different ways I work with different demographics.
Yeah, thank you. If I were to talk about myself, starting with the last question, who I work with, I specialize in working with women. And as a woman myself, I spend quite a lot of time trying to understand the intergenerational and also collective aspect of trauma that conditions us to feel and behave a certain way. Sometimes we don't even realize that. But also what we hold in our bodies as women. It really fascinates me. And there are also different seasons of life that we go through, and I really enjoy supporting women going through those seasons and everything else that the life presents. As for my approach, since my background is mainly in the body-oriented fields as a former dance artist, movement artist, trauma-informed yoga facilitator, and now as a somatic practitioner working with trauma, my approach is very interoceptive. So what that means is that it invites to feel and be with whatever is happening inside in the present moment. And I know it's not always very comfortable and not always useful as well. Just like you said, Arpitha, like there is value in feeling. There's value in being with the body. There might be the right time for that. And there might be times when it's not appropriate or might not be safe. So we need some time to resource and build that capacity that you mentioned. Yet the interoceptive body-oriented approach is where my approach shines, and if you really want to go deeper and to discover what your body holds. And this invitation comes from a place of trust that the body will reveal what needs attention and what needs healing. And I believe this is the essence of somatic experiencing, which is so close to me. And as for relational healing, in my sessions, it starts with inviting my clients to explore their relationship with themselves, their bodies, and the issues that they bring into therapy, something that they want to change, to get rid of, or to fix. This is also, in a way, a relationship. And my presence is that of a guide, sometimes directing towards the places which might be challenging to explore. Also witnessing, holding space, and reminding that there will be moments of discomfort, and reassuring that they are not alone in that discomfort. And also there will be moments of misattunements from my side. I'm a human, and even though I'm coming into this work as someone who holds the knowledge of what trauma is or how it can show up, in the end, misattunements are part of relationships, and repair of those misattunements is so powerful and so healing. So this is what I can offer from my side to initiate a repair, and it can be quite valuable for someone with a lot of relational ruptures but rarely experiences of repair. So this is what I offer through my work. I would also like to mention that in some situations, my somatic therapy sessions, especially online ones, might not be suitable for some people. For example, for those who are not able to sense their bodies or stay with any sensations. And I'm saying this with a lot of compassion and understanding that this is a very common trauma response. And so in this case, Arpita's work probably would be more helpful because combining the top-down and bottom-up approaches, using the dialogue and bringing elements of embodiment in tolerable doses when it's appropriate might be more beneficial. Alternatively, I also work with direct touch. That can be another way to help my clients sense and feel without relying on the mindful awareness alone. And it's also our developmental need to be touched in a caring and a safe way. Also, I'd like to mention that my somatic work may not be suitable for someone with extreme dysregulation that may require clinical specialist support or medical attention. But for someone who is already getting this support of either medical or mental health professionals, then my work would be more complementary. And I feel that that is important to mention. Arpita, is there anyone who may not benefit from your work? Anything you would like to name?
I think you pretty much covered it all. I think it's very, very small percentage of the population who might not benefit from this work. Yeah, I think I have nothing more to add on top of what you shared.
Okay. All right. Great. So as we are coming to the end of this sharing, this conversation, as you see, healing is very unique to each one of us. And there are so many different approaches and ways to work with trauma, to work with the body, to work with the nervous system that would suit different people. And if you're still listening, if you're still with us, and you're curious about somatic therapy and would like to try it with either of us, you can visit the About Us page on backtourbody.org website for more details and maybe to book your first session to experience this process, because this is something to be experienced, right? Rather than understood is one piece of it, but really experiencing is the other. And whatever direction you choose, I just want to leave you with this reminder that healing is possible, right? And I really hope that you get the support you need wherever you are in your process. So thank you so much, Arpita, for sharing this space with me.
Thank you so much, Elena. It was lovely talking to you and sharing about the
Yeah.
work we do.
Yeah, likewise. And thank you for listening.